truncated week and a disappointing one at that. Almost a 3% knockdown for the index, 6% for the bank nifty.
Yeah, 4 days in a row I think we've had crashes and the sentiment looks weak. But you never know. A couple of results have been good. So let's see how they shape up over the course of the next week.
The two trends which have dominated this week, A, have been the currency weakness, and B, even though the FIIs have been net buyers on a net basis, but the quantum has been tapering on a daily basis. So those really were the key takeaways. Like I said, the banks were the biggest eyesore in trade. A 6% cut for the bank nifty. It was, I think, only sectorally the IT index which managed to gain ground. BOB, PNB, some disappointing earnings coming in for PNB. SBI ahead of its earnings next week. Axis, ICICI Bank, IDFC, Bharti, Ambuja, HDFC were your list of losers. On the flip side, Tata Steel gained ground. Infosys as well did well. NTPC ran back Asian Paints. So clearly buying seems to be coming back into the defensives.
Well, a lot of beaten down names too actually in the broader market space, not just defenses did well. So look at the power space, and stocks like Torrent Power, for example, had a splendid week this time around. Call it news, call it speculation, but strong moves, 70% up for the week gone by. You had stocks like eClerks, etc., or a couple of others from the IT pack too, which came out with numbers and the market liked it, so 12% higher. Look at Muthoot Finance, Manappuram Finance, Wockhardt, etc. Strong shows as the circuit limits revised, and these had a fairly decent outing as well. And yeah, maybe there were a couple of disappointments. Tata Coffee on the numbers. Well, that one-time loss clearly impacting sentiment, and I think it ended the week almost 8 or 9% lower in trade for Tata Coffee. And then there were a couple of other disappointments, likes of Indian Bank, for example, which cracked in trade after Friday's session, or on Friday's session, 13% off, and more so in the last couple of hours of trade on Friday, 13% gone. The question really remains, with so much of action lined up for the whole of next week, macro as well as micro, what do we do for the week ahead? To talk about that, Sandeep Wagle, founder and MD of Aptar Technical Advisory Services, joins us for the charts, and Prakash Dewan, Director of Altamont Capital Management, joins us on the fundamentals. Gentlemen, thanks so much for joining in. Sandeep, a quick word really on how do you expect the Nifty to do next week after the 4 days of downtick that we've had?
Good evening, Neeraj. I would say that we have found some kind of a support, though I am not very sure of the markets going up one way. 61.20, 61.30 has been a minor support in that sense I would talk of, from which we have bounced back. Quite possible we may still test 6100, 60.80, can't rule that out. Till it closes firmly, strongly below 60.80, say 60.50, 60.40, I will not change my view on the bullishness of the trend. And broadly the range is 6100 to 6250, 6280. I still don't have a view that we will cross 6350 in a hurry and move towards a new high or so. Broadly 61 to 6280, that is what I see the next week movement out of the Nifty. And within that you will have stock specific moves.
Prakash, is the rupee weakness making you a little uneasy?
Well, if this doesn't continue or become a trend of sorts, which deepens further, then we could probably afford to overlook it. But my sense is, we could probably slide all the way to 64.5, 65 zone, and that is something that could kind of start worsening the macros from where we are. I mean, we've kind of ignored macros thanks to the liquidity influx, but at 64, 65, the rupee could start, staring at some very ugly implications, and that's a worrisome part. And the dollar distinctly has just started a trend of sorts, an up move of sorts that I think will continue more from global cues rather than just domestic. And yes, it is a cause of serious worry.
Sandeep, let's pick out the best and the worst out of the lot. PNB and Tata Motors, what's in store for them?
Well, PNB was looking good, though it has not been spared in the way the banks have cracked down. But I'm not that bearish per se on PNB. I think 515, 520 on the downside, currently at 545, will act as some kind of a support and can push the stock to 562, 563. Tata Motors, I have been disappointed. I was having a very clear target of 415, 418 or so. But that has not happened. In fact, it came down at 380. Now possible it can go down to 360 or so. I don't see 360, 355 being broken. And broadly the range for Tata Motors is 360 on the downside and 415, 418 on the upside.
Prakash, Tata Motors, the numbers stood out, but came in post-market hours. Though the stock is trading at significant highs, what do you expect Tata Motors to do Monday morning?
Yeah, I think there should be definitely a spurt on Monday. I don't know how long lasting would that be, but definitely, what's kind of getting to be encouraging very clearly is, in spite of the timing of their JLR expansion into some of the newer markets, and then the launches that they've had, the F-Type and then the Evoque and then of course the sports version of the Land Rover. I think the high margin business is where, it's kind of coming to the rescue to set off the slowdown in the domestic passenger car segment and also the CV segment. So my sense is, yes, you should see a spurt on Monday, which should be sold out into, not bought into.
Prakash, do you like anything out of the list mentioned?
Well, not particularly, because these are, of course, movers that have been more news driven. But I think opportunity like these, definitely for some of the ones where the numbers have been slightly disappointing and where stocks do react to that, could be entry points for the long-term investors, especially the ones who have missed out on this rally. But out of this lot, I would give it a pass at this point.
Not even an Aurobindo Pharma?
I think there's quite a lot of stuff in the pharma space, Neeraj, which is attractive, and I would go for something which is more on the services side, not just a manufacturing, particularly the API segment, which is where the margins have started shrinking or would start shrinking very soon. So I would skip that right now.
Sandeep, how do the charts look for a Wockhardt or Aurobindo? Both of these stocks, the last 2 or 3 sessions at least, have had a steady uptick.
Well, Wockhardt, I am not enthused because the way it has fallen and after that it has not made a pattern which is suggesting an up move. So it can be played for a trading bounce, but I would not be that keen. Aurobindo Pharma, yes, it has fallen in this week, but at lower levels, somewhere around 225 or so, I would be comfortable. I mean, I would buy into a decline in the range of 230 to 225. I don't think it should break 218 or so on the downside. And I would talk of a 265, 270 short-term trading target and a little longer-term beyond 300, 310. That could be a 3 to 6 month time horizon.
Prakash, couple of mid-cap spaces that did very well. I mean, real estate had a fairly decent Friday, but more importantly, power. And the likes of Torrent Power, for example, had a fantastic week. But some of the others too buzzed up in trade. NTPC from the large cap side or some of the smaller names. Do you like anything there? Torrent Power or Adani Power?
Yeah, I mean, I think that's right. That's a pocket that could probably see a lot of participation come through on the back of news flow. And the government is very clearly, as we go into the election mode, we will see, power is one of the key deciding factors for the masses. So I would believe a lot of positive news flow there. But if you were to choose a stock, look at JSW Energy. It's one of the most well-run businesses in this segment, and I distinctly believe that's undervalued at the current levels. Could give you a very quick upside along with the likes of GVK and Torrent and all that.